Hello everyone, welcome back to Two Fat Brokers podcast. I don't think that's going to get old. We're today going to talk about where we think our respective markets are, property markets are. Today, he's Abu Dhabi, I'm Dubai, and Ben, where is your market today?
Where is Abu Dhabi today? So I think we spoke in our last podcast a lot about where the markets come from, so where Abu Dhabi's come from, and today we are hopefully at or near the bottom of a 4-year, drop in prices. Now, in terms of the supply that we've got coming on, for me it's not too bad. So most reports say we've probably got about 7,000 units to come on this year. So that's probably about a 3% increase in the inventory, which is not too bad for me. For most, mature markets, 3% is absolutely fine. Most countries grow at about 3% anyway, just in terms of population growth.
Who are the main developers who are handing over these products?
A lot of it to come through this year will be sort of individuals. We have that a lot Abu Dhabi is unfortunately a little bit short of sub-developers. We don't have that many. We've got a lot of individuals who build their own buildings.
Family buildings.
Family buildings in a grand tradition of Abu Dhabi. We don't have many developers, although Bloom was going to be handing over at least one, maybe two buildings on Sadiaq. It's probably the main sub-developer, and Aldar will hand over Mira Shams. That's kind of ongoing on Reem Island. So I was just talking about the increase in stock. So 3% should be fine. What I hope seeing now is that the government is creating more jobs. We've got Etihad Rail's been relaunched. There's a massive gas project going on, and we are seeing actively people like ADNOC, Etihad Rail, and those guys hiring. So hopefully those guys will start to take up some of that new stock coming on.
So you see your population growing by at least 3% of white-collar workers, people are actually going to move into these?
I mean, tough to say exactly how much it's going to grow by, guesswork. I mean, the one thing that no one talks about in Abu Dhabi, and that I've sort of stumbled upon, is a number of Emiratis who are becoming of property ownership age. So in Abu Dhabi, we have about 7,000 Emiratis who turned 21 this year, which is an enormous number. And if they all bought one property, that would soak up our entire glut. But those guys they'll stay in their parents' houses traditionally until they get married, and then they'll go and buy a property or something similar. So so that's probably only about 3,500, but still, it's probably soaking up 1.5% of stock and inventory at any one time.
So these families who build towers, they build to sell. That's their business model, or they build to hold?
Build to rent. Yeah.
So they build to hold.
Yeah.
So you really only need people who will be coming in to rent those to sustain the rentability market.
Yeah. No, we just need the renters, really. I mean, in terms of the buyers are out there if the market, is positive. And actually, the buyers are out there for the right kind of product. We just had Reman launched by Aldar, which was a bunch of villa plots, and it sold out in one day because it's a really great product for Emiratis. And unfortunately, in the UAE at the moment, not in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi to be specific, the only people who are really buying in any seriousness are Emiratis, because they've got the cash and they've got the job security. It's really difficult to persuade expats to buy at the moment because of that uncertainty. So anything that's really focused on Emiratis, selling well for those reasons. The secondary market is still in a really sticky place.
Why do you think, sorry to interrupt, why do you think it's very difficult to persuade expats to buy in Abu Dhabi? Because expats are the main market drivers in Dubai.
Yeah, job security. So if you're going to buy something, you want to be able to live in it for 2 or 3 years at least. So you've got to have job security for 2 or 3 years. And at the moment in Abu Dhabi, we're going through a very painful growing period where we brought in a new real estate law in 2015, and it's now being implemented. And it's causing a lot of uncertainty in the market, I think, particularly amongst expats who own. Also, Abu Dhabi, for some reason, has very low owner-occupier rates. A lot of the properties are owned by investors and rented out. In terms of owner-occupiers, there's no statistics, but some of the figures we've seen would say probably around about 20% of the portfolio is owner-occupied, 80% is actually invested.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's being too rude. It's quite self-explanatory if the guys who are building them are families building towers.
No, I mean, sorry, in the investment zones. So where you can buy.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so
if you could buy, only about 20% of
course.
people buy the home that they live in. Most people rent, and most stuff is still bought by investors. And that's one of the reasons why markets, slowed down recently, because investors are staying on the sidelines. They're not coming in. It's mostly the guys who are buying are owner occupiers, and as I said, there's very few of those. So it still makes really good sense for an owner occupier to buy property. Because almost halves your rent when you look at the statistics, but the investors aren't there at the moment.
Okay.
And in Dubai, where do you see the market at the moment?
Similar, to be honest. In as much as the level of uncertainty. I mean, I wish I could reel off.
Do you worry about job security?
I think you would be in a very secure market or very secure demographic to not be worried about your job right now. There is a huge swing of white collar workers, or Europe. Let's call them the higher salaried Europeans, who are leaving the country, and obviously then that leaves a job vacant.
Leaving because they're fired from their jobs?
Leaving through redundancy, leaving through the cost of living, leaving...
I think cost of living is going up even though rents are going down?
I think if you were to equate the two, probably not, but I think people's incomes are shrinking. And there's the statistics are, and these vary again depending on who you talk to, that we've had 20,000 British expat families leave in the last 4 years.
Leave the
UAE. So what you've got is you've got a huge churn of white collar workers, to call them Europeans, who are going back to their home countries, and they are being replaced by cheaper labour. As again, as difficult as that is to say in a PC manner, they are being replaced by people who will take a lower salary. That again is leaving a lot of empty property.
So what you're saying is that it's not that their job is being
their job is changing.
Their job's not being removed. They are being moved out, and someone else cheaper is being put in their job. Basically,
there's some of that, and then there's some of jobs literally being cut. A couple of years ago, there was a major Russian gas company or gas company who cut their whole workforce here, a couple of thousand people, over a very, very brief period of time, and they obviously all went back to Russia or went to their own countries. But I see the market here right now, going back to developers. You can name the developments that have been launched and are handing over this year. There are too many to name in Dubai. Last week alone there were two full developments of in the mid-hundreds villas launched by major developers here in Dubai.
Launched or handed over?
Launched.
Oh, okay.
So handed over.
How did they sell those launches?
I think Cherry Blossom, or the Miras's new development. Day one they sold about 150 units of.
Is that good?
2 and 3 bedroom houses. Back in the day, that would have sold out within a few hours. So no, I think that
sounds pretty good. I mean, how big is the development?
They laud. I don't really know. I must admit, I don't know exactly how big it is. It probably most likely be one of these phased-in developments. So they'll launch phase 1, and then see how that sells, and then launch phase 2, 3, and 4. I think there were about 250 units that were available, and 150 sold.
Okay. Not bad.
Which, no, it's not bad at face value, but when you look back at the days of yore, that would have sold out in a few hours. You know, and I'm talking 2013, 2014, not 2008, 2009.
Yeah, but
2007.
But back then, you know, you could have launched a line of dog kennels and it would have sold out in record time.
Yeah, and flipped.
Yeah, and flipped.
So look, I mean, I think the market here is being hugely saturated right now with launches, which is fine.
Launches?
With launches,
Still, yeah?
launches, yeah, huge amounts. Which is fine because who knows where the market's going to be in 4 years. Touch wood, it will be in a much healthier place than it is now. But I see that there is a huge problem with our population growth, as in I believe that we're in negative growth. I believe the Dubai population is actually shrinking in terms of
What makes you believe that?
School occupancy, school attendance, schools.
Anecdotal, you'd say, just talking to people.
Anecdotal, 100%. It's I haven't actually looked at any of the statistics. Schools being far more empty, which is a very, very good indicator, to be honest with you. You know, of the population. The job markets, there are very few jobs on the market right now, and I think, as you say, it's anecdotal, but it is the general whisper on the street corners that personally I know a lot of people have left and who are thinking about leaving. You know, and it doesn't take you long to be at a dinner party before word turns to, you know, to people who are leaving. And very few people, if you look at the social media boards, I'm a member of British Dads Dubai. Very, very rarely do you have somebody coming on going, gents, I'm moving to Dubai, you know, I need some advice for this, that and the other. There's far more people saying, you know, thanks very much Dubai, you've been a blast, you know, sad to see you go, but you know, for work reasons or whatever reasons, we're going home. So
I mean, you know, we get the same thing in Abu Dhabi, and what I would say then is, I've always imagined that the Abu Dhabi population is pretty static, and actually our schools, we haven't launched that many new big schools, so our schools are still pretty full. But what I would say is, if people are here for an average of 4 years, which I think is fair, right? If you're here for an average of 4 years, that's a turnover of 25% of the population every year.
How do you get that?
Well, if you're here for an average of 4 years, that means so after 4 years, you know, you leave, generally speaking. Yeah, so any one person is going to leave in 4 years. So that means 25% of the population is going to leave in 4 years. So it's a massive turnover. So you will always know lots of people who are leaving.
Yes.
Always. And it's now, you know, when we're talking about being worried about the economy and being worried about jobs and things like that people really start to notice that. It's like, you know, thinking about pink elephants, and then all of a sudden you see pink elephants everywhere. It's a bad example, but you know, you know what I mean. That's like thinking about red cars, and all of a sudden you see red cars everywhere, and so it's a popular topic to talk about. So, you know, for me, you know, I'm a nerd. I like statistics. I like to know what's going on. Some people have issues with some of the statistics that they see, you know, in and around the UAE. I like you know, the independent, you know, ones. So like IMF, for example, International Monetary Fund, you know, talks about the growth of the UAE, and it's, you know, and it's expecting the UAE, you know, as a whole to grow 3+% this year.
That's fine as an economy. But I'm talking about population.
So, as I was saying, the best time to buy off plan is at the bottom of the market, and the guys who bought at the top, you know, in terms of 2014, you can't really blame them there, because in reality, we thought, I mean, everyone thought, and if it hadn't been for the oil shock, that in 2014 the prices would just continue to rise, you know, in which case buying off plan then is still a good idea, but you're getting it delivered in 4 years, remember, so it's much a better idea to buy off plan at the bottom than, you know, in a hot market, because that hot market can turn any time, and you know, you're going to get that property delivered at possibly less value than you actually bought it at. So much better to buy off plan at the bottom, because then, you know, you've got a lot more, you know, upside to take.
And I think that's what we're seeing right now. I think that's what we're seeing, certainly in Dubai. You know, as I said, these launches where, you know, you're getting, call it 60% of a launch selling out in one day, because these guys are looking at it and they're hedging against where the market's going to be in 4 years. And as I say, you know, I truly believe we are very close to the bottom of this, in Dubai, of this downturn. You know, so now I think people have been caught cold with purchasing off plan 2-3 years ago, you know, if they're still buying now, they're gonna recoup some of those losses. So yeah, I think
Although saying that, every year we say it's going to turn around this year.
not every year.
Eternal optimists. That's what real estate brokers are. We're very optimistic.
Yeah, I think we tell people that. No, you're right. We are eternal optimists.
And talking about eternal optimism, our next podcast or vidcast, whichever format you're watching this on, will be about where we think the market is going to go from here. So this has been where it is today. Next one's where it is from here. So I've been Ben from Abu Dhabi.
I've been Barney from Dubai.
Thank you very much for joining us.
And we have been two fat brokers.
We have, very fat.